On the day my wife told me she was pregnant, I was overjoyed, until my best friend pulled me aside and revealed that the baby was actually his, and my sister had helped cover the affair. I was already sleeping with Rachel when Sarah told me she was pregnant. There, I said it. No sugarcoating, no working up to it with context about how our marriage had gotten stale or how Rachel understood me in ways Sarah never could. Just the truth. I'd been cheating on my wife for 3 months when she showed me those 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test, and instead of feeling guilty, I felt trapped. Rachel was everything Sarah wasn't. Where Sarah was steady and predictable, Rachel was spontaneous and electric. She worked at the marketing firm that hired my company for IT support, and what started as flirty emails about server maintenance turned into drinks after work, which turned into her apartment, which turned into me becoming the kind of man I'd always despised. The kind who could look his wife in the eye over dinner and lie about working late. The kind who deletes texts and clears browser history like a teenager hiding. The kind who thought he was too smart to get caught. Sarah's pregnancy should have been a wake-up call. We'd been trying for 2 years, spent thousands on fertility treatments, and cried together every month when the tests came back negative. But when she finally got pregnant, all I could think about was how this baby would chain me to a life I was already trying to escape. I smiled, I hugged her, I called our parents with the good news, and then I texted Rachel from the bathroom, "We need to talk." The thing about affairs is they make you feel like you're living in a movie. Every secret meeting feels significant, every stolen moment electric. You tell yourself stories about star-crossed lovers and meant-to-be connections. You don't think about the mundane cruelty of it all. You're just another cliché. Another middle manager is having a midlife crisis at 32. Another man who got bored and decided his boredom was more important than his vows. Rachel said she understood when I told her about the pregnancy. Said she knew what we had couldn't last forever. But then she started crying, and suddenly I was promising things I had no right to promise. That I'd leave Sarah after the baby was born. That we'd find a way to be together. That this wasn't goodbye. I held her in her overpriced downtown apartment, surrounded by the kind of modern furniture Sarah would call impractical, and felt like the hero of my own story. The passionate man choosing love over convention. God, I was such a fool. My best friend Mike had been acting weird for weeks. We'd grown up together, been each other's best men, shared everything. But lately, he'd been dodging my calls, making excuses to skip our weekly basketball games. When Sarah announced the pregnancy at our friend's barbecue, Mike looked like he'd been punched in the gut. I figured he was just jealous. He'd always wanted kids, but his girlfriend had left him last year. I felt bad for him, watching Sarah and me play the happy, expecting couple. 2 weeks after the announcement, Mike asked me to meet him at our old dive bar. Said it was important. I assumed he needed to talk about his ex or maybe wanted to announce he was moving for work. Instead, he ordered 2 whiskeys, downed his in one go, and said the words that shattered my entire world: "I need to tell you something about Sarah." My first thought was that he knew about Rachel. That someone had seen us together and told him. I was already preparing my denials, my explanations, my anger at him for spying on me. But what he said was so much worse. "We've been having an affair," he said, not meeting my eyes. "For 6 months. The baby might be mine." The bar was loud, but suddenly all I could hear was static. Like someone had tuned my brain to a dead channel. I stared at him, waiting for the punchline. This had to be a sick joke. A weird test. Something. Anything but the truth. "Your sister knows," he continued, each word a nail in my coffin. "Amy's been helping us. Covering for Sarah when she said she was with her. I'm so sorry, man. We never meant for it to happen. It just did. And now with the baby. Sarah doesn't know what to do. She's been sick with guilt. That's why I had to tell you." I laughed. Laughed. The sound that came out of me was hollow and sharp, like breaking glass. Here I was, drowning in guilt about Rachel, practicing speeches about how Sarah deserved better, how I'd been selfish, how I'd understand if she never forgave me. And the whole time, she'd been in bed with my best friend. My childhood friend. The guy who'd held me when my dad died. Who'd talked me off the ledge when I thought I'd never amount to anything. Who'd stood next to me at my wedding and promised to look after Sarah if anything ever happened to me. Well, something had happened to me. I'd become a cheater. And apparently, so had everyone else in my life. The cosmic joke of it all hit me in waves. Every time Sarah had been too tired, claiming work stress. Every girl's niggirls they me ran late. Every inside joke between Sarah and Mike at our dinner parties that I'd thought was just friendly banter. The signs had been there, blazing neon and obvious, but I'd been too busy sneaking around with Rachel to notice my wife was doing the same thing. "How?" was all I managed to say. Mike looked miserable, but there was something else in his expression, too. Relief. He was relieved to finally tell me. To not carry this secret anymore. It made me want to punch him even more. It started at Amy's birthday party. You were traveling to that conference in Seattle. Sarah was upset about the fertility stuff. We talked all night and one thing led to another. We tried to stop, but we couldn't. I love her, man. I've loved her for years. Years. He'd loved my wife for years. Been my friend, my brother, while harboring feelings for the woman I'd married. And my sister, my own, had helped them betray me. The same sister who'd lectured me about commitment when Sarah and I got engaged. Who'd made that toast at our wedding about true love and loyalty. I stood up to leave, and Mike grabbed my arm. What are you going to do? What was I going to do? Confess my affair? Tell Sarah I knew about hers? Pretend nothing had happened and raise a baby that might not be mine with a woman who'd been lying to me while I'd been lying to her? The options spread out before me like a choose-your-own-adventure book where every path led to disaster. I don't know, I said, and walked out into the night, where the world looked the same as it had an hour ago but would never be the same again. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I went to Rachel's apartment and told her everything. Watched her face cycle through shock, then something that looked almost like vindication, then pity. The pity was the worst part. She held me while I cried on her expensive couch, this woman I'd been cheating with, feeling sorry for me because I'd been cheated on. The irony was so thick you could choke on it. You should leave her, Rachel said, stroking my hair. We could start fresh. Both of us, together. For a moment, in the darkness of her apartment with the city lights twinkling below, it seemed possible. Run away with Rachel. Let Sarah have Mike and the baby that might be his. Start over somewhere new where nobody knew what a hypocrite I was. But then I thought about the pregnancy announcement, Sarah's glowing face, her hand on her still flat stomach. The way she'd looked at me with such hope. Had that all been an act? Or was she as lost in this mess as I was? I went home at dawn. Sarah was awake, sitting at the kitchen table with a cup of tea, looking pale and drawn. Morning sickness, I assumed. Or guilt. Did guilty people get morning sickness worse? Was there a karma component to pregnancy symptoms? Where were you? She asked, but there was no accusation in it. Just tired concern. With Mike, I said, watching her carefully. She flinched, just slightly, but enough. He told me. The mug slipped from her hand, shattering on our tile floor. Tea spread in a puddle that looked like it was an early morning light. She didn't move to clean it up. Just sat there, staring at the mess, tears rolling down her cheeks. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Are you? I sat down across from her, careful to avoid the broken ceramic. Or are you just sorry you got caught? She looked up at me then, and I saw something shift in her expression. I could ask you the same thing about Rachel. The world tilted. She knew. Of course, she knew. Just like I should have known about Mike. How long have you known? 2 months. You're not as good at clearing your browser history as you think. And you started showering before bed. You never used to do that unless. She trailed off. Unless we'd had. But we hadn't had one for months. Because she'd been sleeping with Mike. So we're both cheaters, I said, the words tasting like ash. Looks like it. We sat there in our kitchen, the place where we'd cooked together, argued about bills, planned our future, and stared at the wreckage of our marriage. The sun was coming up, painting everything gold, making even our disaster look beautiful. The baby, I started. I don't know, she told me off. The timing. It could be either. Either. The baby we'd tried so hard for could be either mine or my best friend's. The cosmic joke just kept getting funnier. Amy, I said. How could she? Sarah's face crumpled. She tried to talk me out of it so many times. But I'd do her off if she told you. She was trying to protect both of us, in her messed up way. She loves you. She just loved me too. My sister, caught between loyalty to and loyalty to friendship. Choosing friendship. Or choosing what she thought would as people. As if secrets are ever less than the truth. What do we do now? Sarah asked. I wanted to rage. To throw things. To list every grievance, every moment she'd made me feel small or unseen that had driven me to Rachel. To her, tee-hee way I was. But sitting there, looking at her red-rimmed eyes and shaking hands, I realized we'd already been see each other in every way that mattered. I don't know, I said. It was becoming my default response to everything. We tried counseling. What a joke that was. Sitting in Dr. Martinez's beige office, parsing through the timeline of who cheated first, as if that mattered. Sarah had started first, technically, but I'd been emotionally checking out for longer. We'd both had help covering our tracks. We'd both lied and schemed and betrayed. The only difference was that her affair had possibly created a life while mine had just destroyed one. The sessions became competitions of confession. She'd admit to using my golf trips as cover for weekends with Mike. I'd counter with the business dinners that were dates with Rachel. She'd cry about how lonely she'd felt in our marriage. I'd rage about feeling unappreciated. Dr. Martinez would nod and take notes and ask how that made us feel, as if feeling was the problem and not the systematic destruction we'd wreaked on each other. 3 weeks into counseling, Sarah had a prenatal appointment. I went with her, both of us pretending things were normal for the sake of the ultrasound tech. There it was on the screen, our baby. Or Mike's baby. Moving, heart, real. The tech printed out pictures, and Sarah clutched them to her chest in the parking lot, sobbing. I want to keep it, she said. No matter what. I want this baby. Even if it's not mine? It could be yours. We won't know until it's born. And if it's not? She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in weeks. Would you love it anyway? I wanted to say yes. The good man, the righteous man, would say yes. But I wasn't good or righteous. I was a cheater sitting next to another cheater, looking at a grainy ultrasound photo of a baby that might be the product of my wife's affair with my best friend. I don't know, I said. My new catchphrase. Rachel was getting impatient. She'd been understanding at first, but as weeks turned into a month, she started pushing. She'd left her boyfriend for me. Turned down a job in another city. Put her life on hold for a future she thought we'd have together. The irony of a mistress wanting commitment wasn't lost on me, but I was too exhausted to appreciate it. You're going to raise another man's baby? She asked one night when I'd snuck away to see her. It might be mine. And if it's not? Everyone wanted to know what I'd do if the baby wasn't mine. As if I had any answers. As if any of this had been planned. Then I'll deal with it then. You're going to stay with her. It wasn't a question. I don't know what I'm doing, Rachel. My wife cheated on me with my best friend. My sister helped cover it up. The baby might not be mine. And I'm sitting here with the woman I cheated with, trying to figure out if I'm staying in my marriage. Do you see how insane this all is? She did see. That was the problem. She saw that I was probably going to try to make it work with Sarah. That faced with the absolute destruction of leaving, I'd choose the familiar destruction of staying. That I was a coward who'd rather live with the devil I knew than risk something new. I love you, she said. I know, I replied, but couldn't say it back. Because I wasn't sure if what I felt for Rachel was love or just escape. If what I'd felt for Sarah was gone or just buried under all the wreckage. If I were capable of loving anyone when I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror. Mike had been calling and texting nonstop. I'd ignored them all, but Amy finally cornered me at our mom's house during Sunday dinner. Mom didn't know yet. We'd all agreed on that, at least. The last thing she needed while going through chemo was to know her children's lives were imploding. You need to talk to him, Amy said, finding me hiding in my childhood bedroom. I need to do a lot of things. Talking to the man who slept with my wife isn't high on the list. You slept with someone else, too. After. I did it after.
Does that matter? It did to me. It mattered that Sarah had betrayed me first, even if only by 3 months. It mattered that while I was feeling guilty about developing feelings for Rachel, Sarah was already in Mike's bed. It mattered in the petty score-keeping way that everything matters when you're trying to assign blame for a disaster. He's a mess, Amy continued. He loves her. He loves you too. He doesn't know what to do. Join the club. Are you going to tell Mom? Are you? We stared at each other, the sibling who'd betrayed me and the brother who'd betrayed everyone. Both of us are guilty. Both of us are trying to protect our dying mother from the truth. This is so up, Amy said and started crying. I hugged her because what else could I do? She was still my sister, even if she'd chosen Sarah over me. Mike was still my best friend, even if he'd slept with my wife. Sarah was still my wife, even if she'd betrayed me. The bonds between us were stretched and torn but not quite severed. We were all hanging on by threads, afraid to let go because we didn't know who we'd be without each other. Sarah went into labor on a Tuesday. It was early, 36 weeks, but the doctor said stress could do that. Stress. That was one word for what we'd been living through. I was in the delivery room, holding her hand, coaching her breathing, playing the devoted husband while wondering whose features the baby would have. Mike's strong jaw? My crooked nose? Would we know immediately, or would we spend years looking for signs, analyzing every expression, every gesture? The baby was a girl. 6 pounds, 2 ounces, with a full head of dark hair and my eyes. My eyes. The nurse said it, Sarah's mother said it, and everyone who saw her said it. She had my eyes, but Mike had dark eyes too. Similar enough that it proved nothing. Sarah named her Emma after my grandmother. A peace offering maybe, or a manipulation. I couldn't tell anymore. Everything felt like strategy, even the things that might have been genuine. I sent Mike a picture from the hospital. Just the baby, no message. He responded immediately. She's beautiful. Congratulations. Then, is she? I didn't answer. I didn't know. The paternity test was my idea. Sarah fought it at first, said it didn't matter, that Emma was ours regardless. But I needed to know. Needed something concrete in all this uncertainty. The results would take 2 weeks. 2 weeks of falling in love with a baby who might not be mine while sleeping on the couch, and pretending everything was fine for the stream of visitors. Rachel ended things via email. Said she couldn't wait anymore, that seeing the birth announcement on Facebook, posted by Sarah's mother, not us, made her realize I was never going to leave. She was taking the job in Portland. She wished me well. She deserved better. All probably true. I deleted the email, then retrieved it from my trash, then deleted it again. A perfect metaphor for our entire relationship. The test results came on a Thursday. Sarah was nursing Emma when I opened the envelope. I'd paid extra for expedited processing, unable to bear the waiting any longer. 99.97% probability of paternity. Emma was mine. The relief was overwhelming, followed immediately by shame. Because if she hadn't been mine, I would have left. I knew it in that moment with absolute clarity. I would have abandoned Sarah and the baby and started over with Rachel, or alone or anywhere that wasn't here. I was only staying because biology had given me an out from making the hardest decision. She's mine, I told Sarah. She started sobbing, clutching Emma so tight the baby fussed. Thank God, thank God. But it didn't fix anything. Emma being mine didn't erase the affairs or the lies or the destruction of trust. It just meant we were biologically bound in our disaster. We tried to make it work. For Emma, we said. For our daughter, who deserved better than broken parents. But you can't rebuild a house on a rotten foundation. Every day was another small betrayal. Sarah was checking my phone when she thought I was asleep. I drove past Mike's apartment to see if her car was there. Both of us were lying about where we were going, even when we were telling the truth, because lying had become our default language. Mike moved to Chicago, said it was for work, but we all knew better. He sent gifts for Emma, checks for her college fund, careful to go through Amy instead of directly to us. The last time I saw him was at a gas station 3 months after Emma was born. We stood there by the pumps, two men who'd once been brothers, and couldn't find a single thing to say. I'm sorry, he finally managed. Yeah, I said. Me too. And that was it. 25 years of friendship reduced to awkward apologies at a Shell station. Sarah and I separated when Emma was 6 months old. Told ourselves it was temporary, just space to figure things out. But we both knew better. I got an apartment downtown, close enough to see Emma every day, but far enough that I couldn't pretend we were still a family. The divorce was finalized a year later. Quiet, mutual, no big fights over assets. We'd already destroyed everything worth fighting for. Split custody, split holidays, split everything down the middle like we could achieve fairness through mathematics. Amy tried to maintain relationships with both of us, but it was strained. How do you look at someone who helped destroy your brother's marriage, even if that marriage was already destroying itself? How do you look at your brother when you know all his worst secrets? We see each other at family events, polite and distant, like strangers who happen to share DNA. Mom died, never knowing the truth. We all sat in the hospital room, Sarah and Mike and Amy and me, playing our parts one last time. The grieving family united in loss. She held Emma before she went, said she was glad to see the next generation, that she could be happy knowing we were all okay. We let her believe it. Our last gift to her was that lie. Emma is 3 now, smart, funny, looks more like me every day. She doesn't know why mommy and daddy live in different houses, doesn't know about the aunt who rarely visits or the uncle who sends presents but never comes around. She will someday. We'll have to explain it all somehow, find words to make sense of how people who loved each other could hate each other so badly. Sarah is dating someone new, a pediatrician from her mom's group. Good guy from what I can tell, stable, honest, everything I wasn't. Seeing them together at Emma's birthday party was like watching the life we should have had, just with a different man playing my part. Rachel reached out once, about a year after she left. Just checking in, she said. She was engaged, happy, and wanted closure. I gave it to her. Told her I was glad she found someone, that what we had wasn't love but mutual destruction. She disagreed, said it had been real for her. Maybe it was real for all of us. Mike's love for Sarah. Sarah's connection to him. My escape with Rachel. All real, all valid, all devastating when combined. I've tried dating, but I can't shake the paranoia. Every time a woman is 5 minutes late, I wonder who she's with. Every new relationship feels like a potential betrayal waiting to happen. My therapist says it's PTSD from the infidelity, both mine and Sarah's. That trust, once broken completely, might never fully return. I believe him. Some things, once shattered, can't be put back together the same way. The worst part is the modeling we've done for Emma. What have we taught her about love? About commitment? About truth? That people who promise to love you forever will betray you? That everyone lies? That love isn't enough to keep people together? She'll carry our failures into her relationships, our dysfunction echoing through generations. I see it sometimes when Sarah drops Emma off. The way she still knows exactly how I take my coffee. The inside jokes we can't help but share about Emma's quirks. The muscle memory of a decade together that divorce papers can't erase. We could have been happy, I think. If we'd just been brave enough to be honest. About being unhappy. About being attracted to other people. About needing something different. But we were cowards who chose secrets over difficult conversations, and look where it got us. Last week, Emma asked if Daddy could come home. Just move back in, she said, like it was simple. Sarah and I looked at each other over her head, two people who'd destroyed everything rather than admit we were destroying it, and I saw my regret reflected in her eyes. No, sweetheart, Sarah said gently. Daddy has his own home now. But why? Emma asked, in that way 3-year-olds do, demanding truth from a world built on convenient lies. I opened my mouth to answer, to offer some platitude about how sometimes adults make choices, how Mommy and Daddy love her even if they don't love each other. But nothing came out. Because how do you tell your daughter that her parents were too selfish, too cowardly, too wrapped up in their own needs to save the family she deserved? How do you explain that we had everything, a love that had survived years, fertility struggles, loss, and we gave it all away for people who were ultimately just symptoms of our dissatisfaction? Because, I finally said, the most honest thing I could manage. Sometimes people break things that can't be fixed. Emma seemed to accept this, went back to playing with her toys, but I saw Sarah wipe away a tear. We sat there in what used to be our living room, watching our daughter play, two people forever connected by the beautiful thing we'd made, and the way we'd unmade everything else. When I left that evening, Emma waved from the window like always. Sarah stood behind her, holding her up, and for a moment we were a family again. A tableau of what we'd had, what we'd lost, what we'd sentenced our daughter to navigate alone. I drove home to my empty apartment, where the silence is so loud it hurts, where Emma's drawings on the fridge are the only color in all that beige. I thought about Mike in Chicago, probably wondering if Emma has my eyes. About Rachel in Portland with her husband, who'll never know he was her second choice. About Amy, caught forever between loyalty and truth. About Sarah, trying to build something new on the ashes of what we burned down. We all got what we deserved, I suppose. We wanted more, so we ended up with less. We wanted passion, so we got destruction. We wanted to be understood, so we became unrecognizable. We wanted love, so we settled for loneliness. And Emma? Emma got parents who love her but can't love each other. Who'll spend her childhood shuttling between homes, never quite whole in either place. Who'll teach her about relationships through the lens of their failure hole? Always wonder if the other is her against them, because that's what broken people do. They assume everyone else is broken too. I used to think the worst thing in the world was being cheated on. Then I became a cheater and learned the worst thing is being both victim and perpetrator. Unable to claim the high ground. Unable to fully heal because you're also the one who caused the wounds. Sarah and I destroyed each other equally, methodically, with the kind of precision that only comes from knowing someone well enough to know exactly how to them. If you're reading this thinking about cheating, thinking the grass is greener, thinking you deserve better or different or more, let me save you the suspense. You don't get better, you just get different problems. You trade the small dissatisfactions of daily life for the enormous pain of betrayal. You exchange the person who knows your coffee order for someone who'll never quite trust you because you cheated to be with them. You swap the comfortable silence of a decade together for the anxious noise of wondering if they're doing to you what you did to someone else. But here's the thing no one tells you about after the affair. You don't just lose your marriage. You lose your entire life. Your friends pick sides. Your family stops trusting your judgment. Your kids grow up in broken homes. You lose the person who knew you before you became this worst version of yourself. You lose the future you'd planned, the inside jokes, the shared history, the person who would have held your hand through your parents' deaths and your children's graduations. And for what? For Rachel, who was just a projection of what I thought I wanted. For Mike, who was just Sarah's version of the same escape. For the thrill that faded the moment it became real. For the excitement that turned to exhaustion when we had to face the consequences. There's no redemption arc here. No lesson learned that made it all worthwhile. Just the echo of what we had and the shadow of what will never be. Sarah and I could have worked on our marriage. Could have gone to counseling before we went to other people. Could have been honest about our needs instead of getting them met elsewhere. It could have been adults instead of children playing with matches in a house made of paper. I think about Emma's future wedding sometimes. How Sarah and I will sit on opposite sides of the aisle, pretending we're okay for her big day. How Mike won't be invited, even though he was supposed to be my best man forever. Amy will have to carefully navigate between all of us, keeping the peace that we shattered. How Emma will maybe understand then what we cost her, the family she should have had, versus the fractured one she got. The saddest part? I still love Sarah. Not in the way I should have when we were married, but in the way you love someone who shares your biggest regret. We're bound forever not by the vows we took, but by the way we broke them. Every time I see her, I see what we had. Every time she looks at me, she sees what we lost. And Emma, beautiful, innocent Emma, will grow up in the space between those two truths. People ask if I regret the affair. Of course I do, but not for the noble reasons you'd hope. Not because it was wrong, or because I, Sarah, or because I broke my vows. I regret it because I got caught in a web where everyone was cheating, where everyone was lying, where everyone lost. I regret it because it showed me who I was. Someone capable of tremendous betrayal, someone too weak to either commit or leave, someone who destroyed his family. After all, he was bored. If I could go back, knowing what I know now, would I do it differently? Everyone asks that, like there's some clean alternative timeline where I'm a better man. But that's not how it works. The man who cheated is who I am. The man who lied and schemed and betrayed is the real me. The good husband, the loyal friend, the trustworthy brother, those were the lies. The affair didn't change me, it revealed me. So here I sit, in my apartment with Emma's toys scattered around for her weekend visits, scrolling through photos of the family we used to be, and I want to warn everyone, this is what's waiting on the other side of just one drink with that coworker. This is what they don't understand me like you do gets you. This is the price of what they don't know won't hurt them. Except everyone knows eventually. And everyone hurts, infinitely. And you end up alone with your takeout containers, and your every other weekend custody, and your knowledge that you had everything, and torched it all for nothing. The last time Sarah and I were happy, truly happy, was the day before Mike told me about their affair. We'd had breakfast in bed, Emma between us, watching cartoons. Sarah had laughed at something Emma did, that genuine laugh I'd fallen in love with years ago, and I'd thought, we made it through the hard part. The fertility struggles, the stress, the disconnection, we'd survived it all. We had our miracle baby. We were going to be okay. 24 hours later, our world exploded. And the shrapnel is still flying, still cutting, still finding new ways to. Love isn't enough, that's what I learned. Love without honesty, without loyalty, without the daily choice to stay when leaving would be easier, isn't enough. Sarah loved Mike. Mike loved Sarah. I loved Rachel, or thought I did. Sarah and I loved each other once. All that love, and look where we are. Separate homes, separate lives, separate futures. Connected only by a little girl who deserves so much more than the wreckage we gave her. Don't cheat. It's that simple and that impossible. Don't cheat, because you don't just lose the person you cheat on. You lose everything. You lose everyone. You lose yourself. And in the end, sitting in your empty apartment while your daughter asks why daddy can't come home, you realize the person you were trying to find in someone else's bed was just you, running from yourself. But you can't outrun what you've become. And what I've become is exactly what I deserve. Alone, knowing I had everything and chose nothing instead.